from Evoca, and in today's tutorial we're going to finish off our high-res model by combining and bringing everything into the same scene. So we're going to start by deleting the temporary eyes that we created earlier, and then we can merge the one we created into the scene. Okay, so it's obviously a little bit too large, so we'll move that into position and then scale it back so that it sits inside the eye socket that we created when making the head. So you can see that they're there in the scene here. In the hierarchy mode you can see the group, the eye and the cornea and the pupil underneath. So we'll just ungroup that first, and I'll bring this back in so that it isn't as pronounced, so that we can prevent clipping when we start to animate the eye. Then I'll regroup it again so that we can scale it. So just scaling the eye down and moving it back into the head. So moving it back. And in the front view, just positioning it. So we want to scale it so the iris is just visible. You won't see the full iris. It'll be clipped off a little bit from the top and the bottom. So to see the full iris means that like she's surprised or her eyes are wide open. The eyelids are always obscuring the iris just a little bit. So just continuing to scale and position this to make sure that there's no clipping. So if we make it bigger and pull it back a little bit, making sure that the cornea isn't protruding, making sure that the cornea isn't protruding through the eyelids. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to clone it, so just holding shift and dragging it over to create the eye in the other eye. Just moving it into position and just checking to make sure she doesn't look cross-eyed. Okay. So with that done, we're going to merge in the teeth, and we'll do the same thing. So scale and move it into position inside the mouth. Let's make sure we group them together so that the scale is the same. We don't have to do them both at the same time. It'll stay in the same position if we use the group. Now we'll have to ungroup everything before we can finish the model, but just while we're scaling and moving things into position, we'll keep them in the group. So it's just a matter of judging by eye whether it is big enough. So you don't want it obviously protruding through the cheeks, but you do want it to be big enough so when she smiles and the lips pull back, that we aren't seeing gaps between the teeth and the cheek. So now that we have that in position, we can adjust the inner mouth to encompass the teeth and the tongue just a bit better. So bringing the vertices forward where needed and bringing them up. It can be easier to do this in wireframe. Again, making sure that I'm selecting both sides of the mesh, so just marking the selection that I want, but at the same time making sure that I'm not selecting anything of the face, just the inner mouth. Bring it back a little bit into the head a bit more. And just continuing to shape. We don't have to encompass the full mouth, obviously, so we don't need to worry about the top too much, since if she opens her mouth all she'll see is the roof of the mouth sock anyway, which will be a dark colour. And same with the bottom. So now we have the teeth and the mouth inside the same scene as our character. You can just do a few other minor tweaks to the body. So I'm going to adjust her backside a little bit more, so I just want to give her a little bit more of a derriere, since she has a bit of a Latino heritage. We'll just give her a bit more booty. It'll also help balance out the chest, since she has such a large chest area. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So now we'll also create the eyelashes. So we'll do that by selecting the edge ring here and then just extruding, bringing it back so it's obviously not that much, so we just want to extrude a little bit. There we go. Once we're happy with that, we can go into the edge and make sure we select both, do like a marquee to select the ring, and we'll convert it to polygons and then detach. And on the head we will select the vertices and weld them together, because as we extruded these edges they separated. So we want to re-weld all that together again. And then on the eyelash, I'll just hide the eyelash for a second, make sure all that is actually welded. Okay, that looks about right. You can check with the Turbo Smooth. I tweak the inner, the tear duct here a little bit more, so it's actually intersecting with the eye. So just a couple of minor tweaks to before we can call our character finished. In this high-res form anyway. So we'll bring back the eyelashes now. We'll select one edge and convert it to the ring, and then of course two polygons, and then we'll delete those. So when we extrude the edge like that, it'll extrude both a front and a back edge, and we don't need that for the eyelash. So I'm just turning on back face cull so I can make sure that there is only one face on these polygons. And then I'm going to shape the eyelash. So in the corner here I'm going to chamfer the edge slightly and then delete the inner polygon there so I can separate the eyelashes. I'm turning the Turbo Smooth off. I'll snap the inner verts to the eye and then shape the eyelash itself. So I've got the reference image to the side so I can see the shape of her eyelashes. Just bringing them down, the lower one. Okay, so we'll delete the inner polygons here, and we'll weld these verts down so they taper in nicely to the eye. We'll just delete that polygon there and then taper it in so it doesn't go all the way into the tear duct. This is a stylized thing, so I mean, normally, you know, on your eye it will go pretty close into the center of near the tear duct, but stylistically it just looks better to taper it down towards the eye so you can't see the whole lot, especially with this particular style. So again, with the upper lid, so just shaping that so it follows the eye and the shape of the eyelash in the concept. And just like the bottom, tapering it in towards the eye's tear duct. Just squaring off the top a little bit there to help accentuate the shape of her eye. And then just continuing to tweak the shape. And just snapping both of those into the corner of the eye there. Now that I'm happy with the shape, I'm just going to add an edge loop here so I can add a curve to the eyelash so it'll look like it'll curve down from the lid or up from the lid, depending if the upper or lower eyelid. I'm just tweaking the vert slightly and doing the same for the top. Selecting the ring and just connecting them together to add the edge, and then bringing them down to add that curve. Okay, so that's pretty much done. What we'll do now is we'll change the mesh color again just to black, and then we'll clone and mirror it over to the other side, making sure the pivot point is obviously 0 on the X before as we do so, and then attach them both together. Okay, I've noticed a little bit of clipping here of the lower teeth, so I'll just pull those back into the head. Okay, and there we go, all complete.